Good morning to one and all. So it's already 10:10. We'll start our lecture. Still many of the students are joining. You should be on time. Rather you people are on time, but your friends are not. Okay. Anyways, we have started with our first unit, fundamentals of software testing last time. So just in 5 minutes, we will brief about whatever the contents we have seen in the last lecture. So this is the these are the bits of our first unit. So in introduction, we have seen what is exactly the verification and validation. It's a difference we have seen. What is exactly the verification? How the process is been carried out? What is exactly the validation? Then basic difference between these two. Verification, that means are we implementing the system right or the product right, and validation, are we implementing the right product. So here the activities involved in case of verification we have seen like reviews, meetings and inspections, etc. So these are timely based. So you can have meetings with your teammates like for once in a week, once in a month, or one depending upon the projects. Okay. So these are the activities included in verification, where in case of validation, the activities like black box testing, white box testing and gray box testing are involved. So this is the flow we have seen. Like the process of validation is being carried out after verification. So what are the different steps at each stages that we have seen in this particular diagram. Then we have seen the basic definition or bookish definition, we can say here, that is nothing but the execution of a work product with intent to find a defect. So your task of software testing is specifically based on finding the defects only. Then we have seen why the testing process is necessary. So different reasons for the same we have seen, like independent view of a system, important to create real life scenario, different entities. Then development at different places and the blindfolds in designing. So in detail we have seen all these things. Then different approaches to testing like big bang approach, then TQM, total quality management approach we have seen. Then TQM as against big bang approach. So here how the cost at each level is getting increased, we have seen it. Then TQM in cost perspective, like in this the definition like green money, blue money, red money. What does it mean when it exactly happens? How to tackle with these kind of means extra cost from the organization that can be reduced, that we have seen. Then testing during development life cycle. So how the testing is being carried out at each stages of SDLC. In that, the first is requirement testing. So what are the different characteristics under this that we have seen? So this is the first stage, that is requirement testing. Then design testing, code testing, and finally the test case scenario and test case testing itself that we have seen. Then again, the essentials of software testing like SWOT analysis. What are the different strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in case of this software testing that we have seen. Then features of good testing that also been seen from our side. That is capturing user requirements, capturing user needs, design objectives, user interfaces, internal structure, and execution code. So this up to this bit we have seen in our last lecture. So now the next bit is misconceptions about testing that we are going to see now. Okay. So many of the people may say, why to go for testing? It is just a time-consuming process. No need to go for that. Why we have separate organizations or companies for testing only? Why to go for this? So testing can be done from the coders itself in case of our softwares or all. Okay. So no need to go for testing. This is the perceptions from some of the people. There are chances of this kind of perceptions. But what are the necessity? What is the necessity of testing that we are going to see now? So, at many places, software testing is termed as a quality assurance activity. Quality assurance, the name itself will give you the meaning that whatever quality or whatever product you are presenting to your customers, it should be having proper quality and assurity to that particular product's quality should also be given. So we suppose for example we are going to buy a refrigerator, washing machine, or these kind of electronic appliances. So at that time what we are going to see, how many number of stars are there, whether the energy consumption is low in this case. Then suppose unnecessarily it is um, utilizing more and more energy like electricity. Then how to minimize that? Because if we are buying the product, but it should be feasible for our pocket also, isn't it? So we are going to see that things also. Then again, in case of refrigerator, whether means how many liters it is having the capacity, all these things are we are looking into. Okay, but after this, it is having some quality like the brand. Suppose I'm going to buy the refrigerator of LG or Whirlpool. Okay, so they are having some kind of a brands. But okay, if it is having some brand, how much warranty guarantee that particular product is giving to me, that also will be checked. Suppose two products are there from two different companies, but one is giving me the warranty period of say 5 years, and one is giving me say for example of 8 years. So definitely, if there is no other difference in between the two, I will go for the product with warranty period of 8 years. Again, I will check for other points like just now we have discussed, like energy consumption and all. Okay. So if the product is giving you the quality, the assurity of that quality also should be there. So software testing itself, we can say that it is the quality assurance activity. But in reality, testing is quality control activity. We are saying quality assurance, but it is quality control activity. So there are many other misconceptions about software testing as listed here. In that, the first one is anyone can do testing and no special skills are required for testing. So this is the first misconception. If you are giving the product to anybody, he will be handling the product in rough and tough way, and he or she will be finding out the defects. And so is this the scenario? No. So the organization, hello, am I audible? Okay, now it is okay. So organizations have an approach that anyone can be put in testing. They give the task of testing to the developers on bench or people asking you for light duty. So many of the people may think in the organization that this activity of software testing can be given to the people who are on bench. Okay, on bench means what? They are the employees of some organization, but they are not having any project to do. Okay, so those are called as on bench. So this testing activity will be given to these kind of a people, or the people who are asking for light duty. Light duty means what? They are having almost even knowledge of that particular product, and they are just handling the product and then finding out the bugs. So these are the people are called as asking for light duty. So many people involved in testing do not have any experience in testing or in the domain in which testing is done. Okay, so these kind of people, if we say they are not having any good knowledge about testing, and they are put on such kind of a duties. So test planning, test case writing, and test data definition using different methodologies may not be possible with this kind of unskilled people. So you should have proper way of test planning, test case writing, then test data definition. All these terminologies we are going to see in the coming chapters. So if the organizations consider the investment in special skills as a waste of time and money, it may result in disaster of customer or user. So you should, or your product should be tested properly so that number of bugs can be found from that product, those can be resolved and will be given to finally to your customer or the user. Then after, you will be getting proper satisfaction from your customer. So definitely you have to give proper training to your people, your employees, your testers. Okay, so this is the first reason. Then second is second misconception we can say, testers can test quality of product at the end of the development process. Means after launching of the product only you can go for testing of that particular software. Is this the scenario? No. So this is a typical approach where system testing or acceptance testing is considered as qualification testing for the software. So few test cases out of the infinite set of possibilities are used for certifying whether the software application works properly or not. So customers may be dissatisfied at the application does not perform well as per the uh, as per his expectations. Okay, so in previous bits only we have seen that at which particular stages the software testing is being done. So it can be done at requirement level, design level, at coding level itself it is there, and after completion of the project it is must activity, but it should be done at each and every level. So it is not the activity which can be done at the end of the development process only. So this is also one of the misconception. Then next is defects found in testing are blamed on the developers. Still people are joining. No, I'm not going to allow them. So defects found in testing are blamed on developers. So is this correct? No, not at all. No, this is not the task of developers only. So though two-thirds of the defects are due to wrong requirements, yet the developers are mostly blamed for the defects in the software development. So also some surveys indicate that most of the defects can be attributed to faulty development process. So ensuring the good inputs to developers workbench is the responsibility of the management only. So if we are testing the product and we are finding some kind of wrong outputs coming from one of the module, then what we can say, oh, the developer people are not doing their task properly, and they are not doing the task up to the mark, and that's why this particular bug is been coming out of this product. But that it is not always the condition. If the developers are doing the task given by the design team to them, then what is wrong in that? If the design people are not getting the concept properly, okay, then that will not be properly conveyed to your coding team, isn't it? And again, if the design team is not getting the requirement behind it properly, what is the particular requirement from your user or your customer itself, then it will not be properly implemented in the SRS document. So if it is wrongly implemented in the SRS, definitely it will give you bad design. Again, it will be carried out wrongly from your coders, okay, and then definitely it will be giving a wrong output to the tester and the bug will be found. So it is not the case that the defects found in the testing are always blamed on the developer. So this is also one of the misconception. And then defects found by the customers are blamed on the testers. So this is also wrong. Why? Because the testers perform the testing by executing few of the test cases and try to cover some part of the software program to check whether the program performs as intended or not. So no one can say that testing can ensure 100% coverage of the product. If no defect is found during testing, it does not indicate that the software program is defect free. So there may be few defects left in the product which can be found only in real life. So one must do a root cause analysis of the defect that is been found and try to learn from the experiences to ensure that a better product is produced and similar defects do not recur next time. So but no one can be blame can blame the testers for defects reported by the customers. Okay, so these are four given the misconceptions about testing. Any doubt in this particular bit? Any problem? Is any problem is there? No problem. No one is responding. Again, the same scenario is continued. Okay, so next bit is principles of software testing. So what are the different principles that should be carried out while doing the software testing that we are going to see now? Testing needs to be performed according to the processes defined for it. It needs skilled and trained people to break the application and demonstrate the problems or defect in the software product. So some key points are given here, in which the first is programmers or team must avoid testing their own work products. So why is that so? Those who are the programmers, they should avoid testing of their own products. If I am doing my particular product, then I should give that particular product to someone else for testing purpose, and I should not go for testing of that product which is developed by me only. Why so? Because everybody is in the love with their own product, work product. So he whatever he or she has made, okay, so may be having some kind of affection for that product. Wow, I did this particular product in this way, and it is looking like this. So he may be or she may be in the love of that particular product. So also we can say that the approach of an individual remains the same, and hence the approach related to the defects cannot be found in self review or self testing. Because why? Because you did some kind of coding, you are following some steps over there, okay, and you are assuming that this kind of input should be there only. Okay, so you will be looking into the product from that perspective only. Okay, so that is why this should be changed from some other people. Okay, so then again, the second opinion is also necessary or essential, which can add some value to the work product. Though self review is good tool for we can say retrospection, but it has many limitations. Secondly, thoroughly inspect the results of each test to find the potential improvement. So test results show the possibilities of weaker areas in the work product and the problems associated with the processes used for developing a work product. So it indicates the areas where development team and management must perform the root cause analysis. So that's why the corrective actions are required to prevent any possible recurrence of similar defect and make the hello. Hello. Okay. Um, so the corrective actions are required to prevent any possible recurrence of similar defects and make your software better and better. And finally, initiate the actions for corrective actions, and preventive actions. So, defect identification, fixing, and initiation of the action to prevent further problems are the natural ways of making better product and improve the processes. Corrections of the defects are done by the developers for making better and better products. So these are the principles of software testing. Then coming to the next bit, that is the test policy. Okay, so the test policy generally defined by the senior management covering all aspects of the testing. So it will decide the framework of testing and its status in overall mission of achieving the customer satisfaction. This is the only aim, that you should get customer satisfaction at the end. Then for the product organizations, the test policy may be defined by the client, while for product organization, it is decided by the senior management. Okay, so some kind of policies will be defined from your customer end or the senior management or your management team, that this should be there under the quality of this particular product. Okay, so your product should undergo these particular benchmarks. It should satisfy 1 2 3 4 5, whatever the points decided by your customer or the management itself. So accordingly, the test policy will be created. Okay. Then next is defect classification. How the defect classification is been done. So that is the point for the study now. Any doubt till this point? No problem. So we will move further. So next is defect classification. So software defects may be categorized under different criteria. It must be defined in the test plan. The definition may differ from organization to organization, project to project, and customer to customer. So the classification is been done on basis of these points. The first is on the basis of requirement or design specification. So variance from product specifications as documented in the requirement specification or design specification represent a specification related defects. So these defects are responsible for the producer's gap. Variance from user or customer expectations as business analyst or system analyst is not able to identify the customer needs correctly. So these variances may be in the form of implied requirements which are responsible for users gap. So if your bug or the defect is based on the user's gap, okay, or the producer's gap, so it will be called as the defect on the basis of requirement or design specification. Then types of defects. So wrongly implemented specifications are relate to the specifications as understood by the developers, differing significantly from what the customer wants. So these may be termed as a misinterpretations of the specifications. These specifications are present in requirement statements but not available in the final product. So features not supported by the specifications but present in the product represents something extra. And third is root cause defects. So here wrong requirements given by the user or customer can be basic cause of defect. This is due to inability of the customer to put the requirements in the words or specifying the requirements which are not provided. So business or system analyst interprets the customer needs wrongly and can be another major cause of defect. This is due to inability of business or system analyst to elicit the requirement. System design architect does not understand the requirements correctly and hence the architecture is wrong. This may be due to communication gap or inability of the architect in understanding the requirements. Incorrect program specifications, guidelines, and standards are used by respective people. Errors in coding represents the lack of developers' skill in understanding the design and implementing it correctly. Data entry error caused by the user while using the product. So this can be possible when users are not protected adequately. This indicates the design problem itself. Errors in testing, false call, or failure to detect an existing defect in the product. So the first part introduces the defects in correct product, while the second part allows the defects to go to the customer. Mistake in error correction, where defects is introduced while correctly or correcting some identified defects. Then the basic difference between defect, error, or mistake in the software. When the students were giving this particular STQA paper for subject or subjective kind of, so this kind of questions were asked: what is the difference between defect, error, or mistake in the software? So 4 marks question is based on this point also. So whenever we see for these terms at first, so we may feel that all these concepts are equal, but there is the difference. So what is mistake? So it is the issue identified while reviewing the own document or peer review may be termed as a mistake. So mistake that can be found while reviewing our own document. You have written one page, okay, and you yourself is going through it and finding some kind of like problems in that, then they are called as the mistakes. Errors, these are the issues identified internally or in unit testing, which are called as the errors. Okay, so these are the errors which can be found by the coders itself. They are done with some kind of code snippet. They have written some 50 100 lines of code and they are testing that particular code, and then they have found some kind of misbehavior, which is nothing but the error. And defect, it is the issue identified in black box testing or by the customer, which is termed as the defect. So this can be done after your product is ready and it is given to the testing team. They are working on it, and they in black box testing they have found some kind of a misbehavior, which is called as the defect. Second difference, in case of mistake, very low cost of finding the mistake and can be fixed immediately. Suppose the document is with me, codes uh, code is with me, and I am finding some kind of a mistake like error in your for loop or something like that. So I will be fixing it at that moment only. So to fix it will cost me very less amount. But in case of error, it is slightly more cost of finding the error and needs some more time for fixing. So if you have found the error, say like which is giving some misbehavior in such a way that for that particular error you have to write extra code. So at that time it will be little bit time consuming. So that's why we can say that it is slightly more costly. And then defect, it is more costly and needs longer time for fixing the defects. Why this is so? Because your testing team will be finding this particular defect. They will be filing that particular defect through bug tracking tool. Then it will reach to the development team. Then they will process it. They will add some patches in their code, and then they will represent it to the again to the testing team. Then again retesting of the same will be done from the testing team, and then they will say that now the defect is resolved. So this process is definitely time consuming, and it is more costly because for finding out the defects you have to pay something to your testing team. Next difference is in case of mistake, most of the time problems and resolutions are not documented. Very simple, short problems you are finding, suppose in your document, then you are not writing it somewhere. You are directly going to fix it. Okay. So no need to maintain any kind of a documentation for this. In case of error, sometimes the problems and resolutions are documented but may not be used for process improvement. You are finding some kind of uh, errors in your code, so you yourself is writing in your diary or so that this particular error is found in my code snippet and I did this to resolve this. Okay, so this will be for your understanding and you are not going to use it for any kind of uh, process improvement. Okay, so that's why they are documented but not been used anywhere. But in case of defects, in case of defects, the problems and resolutions are officially documented. Officially documented and used improvement. Used for process improvement. Okay, so suppose your testing team, you are working as a tester, then your performance will be calculated like how many number of defects you are finding. Okay, so if I am finding say 10 defects, but all of them are at lower level, but if I am finding 4 to 5 defects which are at major level, which may be um, harmful for the system, and that kind of a defects if I have found, then that kind of a defects will be giving me um, some kind of judging from my seniors. Okay, so this is one of the way of documenting. And again, after, suppose your product is given to the testing team, then for this particular module, say 50 bugs have been found. This module, 10 defects. Then for this particular module, very less, like 25 something are being found. Okay, so according to this, the documents are properly preserved. Okay, so this is the basic difference between mistake, error, and defect. If you have any problem, you can ask your queries. So all of you getting this? No problem. See, many of the students are leaving, then joining. This kind of process is going on. We have the facility of calculating your time duration for the lecture. Okay. So if it is 2 hours lecture, that means 120 minutes. Okay. So for that, in 120 minutes, at least 90 minutes. I can say that all 120, but okay, because of some reasons you left. Okay, network issue is also there. So at least 90 to 100 minutes you should attend for 120 minutes class. And for 60 minutes, at least 45 to 50 minutes is must. Keep this in mind. Don't leave the room in between. Coming towards the next bit, that is defect life cycle. So for defect life cycle, the diagram will be given like this. On internet you are having many other options also, but this diagram will cover all the possibilities. Okay, all the possible stages of the defect, we can say. On the internet some diagrams are present which are not showing all these steps. Okay, so we will see all these steps one by one. uh, Defect life cycle is the cycle which a defect goes through during its lifetime. It starts when the defect is found and ends when the defect is closed, that is after ensuring reproduced it is not reproduced. Defect life cycle is related to the bug found during the testing phase. So the defect life cycle can vary from organization to organization and also from project to project based on the several factors like organization, policy, which we have seen just now, that is the test policy. Then software development model used, like agile, iterative, etc. Then project lifetime, team structure, etc. So the bug has different states in the life cycle as shown in this figure. Okay, so bug or the defect life cycle is including the steps or status that we are going to discuss now. In that, the first is new. So whenever a defect is logged and posted for the first time, it is given the state as new. You have found one new bug or defect, then you are filing it through bug tracking tool. So at that time it will be having the state as new. Second is assigned. Okay, so after the tester has posted the bug, the lead of the tester approves that the bug is genuine one and he assigns the bug to the corresponding developer and the developer team. So its state will be now given as a assigned. Suppose you are the team member from the software testing team, okay, and you have written one bug which is having the state as a new. So it will again be checked from the um, test lead person. Okay, so what he will do is he will check the steps you have written are proper, it is giving wrong output. Okay, and if he thinks that the bug is genuine one, he will assign it to the person from the uh, developer team. Okay, and then from the development team it will be assigned to the proper module team and all. Okay, but first of all, whether the bug is genuine, that will be checked by the test lead and then it will be assigned. So that's why the state of the bug will be in assigned condition. Next is open. So at this state, the developer has started analyzing and working on the defect fix. So here the working from the development team is going on. So that is why the state is given as a open. It is not yet fixed, not yet closed. It is still open. That means it is alive in the product, uh, still in present. Next is fixed. So when developer makes some kind of necessary code changes and verifies the changes, then he or she can make the bug status as a fixed, and the bug is passed to the testing team. So some kind of a work is being done from the developer team on that particular bug. So he will say that the bug is now in fixed condition, and now it will be reassigned to the person in the testing team or the test lead itself. Okay. Then next is pending retest. So after fixing the defect from the developer that has given that particular code for retesting to the tester. So here the testing is pending on the tester's end. Hence its status is pending retest. So now the task is from the testing team that to go through the steps that he carried out previously once again and go for retesting of that, or of that same defect. Okay. Next is retest. So at this stage, the tester do the retesting of the change the code which developer has given to him to check whether the defect got fixed or not. So here at this stage, retesting is being carried out. Then after verified, so the tester tests the bug again and again after it got fixed by the developer. So if the bug is not present now in the software, he will approve that the bug is now fixed and the changes in the status are verified properly. So now the status will be verified, and then after the status will be closed. So once the bug is fixed, it is tested by the tester. If the tester feels that the bug is no longer exists in the software, he will change the status of the bug to closed. Now it is ended. The bug is not at all present in the product. So this state means that the bug is fixed, tested, and approved. So this is the process. Then whenever the bug is open, it is having again these four different states, which are like duplicate. Okay. So if the bug is repeated twice, or two bugs mention the same concept of the bug, then one bug status is changed to duplicate. Suppose in the team you are working on, say, one particular module, okay, and you yourself has found the bug. You have written it through the bug tracking tool. Your friend also found the same mistake or the defect, and he also filed the bug through bug tracking tool. Okay, but you have filed it first and he after some time, then his bug will be taken as a duplicate. Or if without looking into it, if the test lead has assigned it directly to the developer team, then they can say that they can approve the first one or maybe the second one, whichever will come to him firstly. Okay. For the second one, he will uh, duplicate. We will call it as a duplicate. Next is rejected. So if the developer feels that the bug is not genuine, he may reject that particular bug. Then the status of the bug is changed to rejected. Suppose you have found some kind of a defect, but it is not exactly the defect, and it is as per the requirements from the user. It is going by the steps which are given by the user itself. Then he may say that this is not the bug, okay, and he is having a right to reject it. At that time, the status will be rejected. Then deferred. What does it mean? So the bug changed to deferred state means the bug is expected to be fixed in next release. The reason for changing the bug to this state have many factors, like some of them are priority of the bug may be low, lack of time for the release, or the bug may not have major effect on the software. So at that time, we can call it as a deferred. Okay. You have found some kind of a bug, but it is not necessary to it is not necessary to fix it at this moment of time. Maybe um, this is the scenario, like if you have given the priority to the other bugs which are having highest priority, have a highest severity, okay, then that time those will be checked with highest priority. Or lack of time, that means what, key your developer team has very less number of days in hand, okay, and at that time it is very difficult to um, tackle with that particular defect, or you are going to fix it in the next release, next version of the product. So at that time the defect can be marked as a deferred from the developer team. Then not a bug. So this state not a bug is given if there is no change in the functionality of the application. So for example, if customer asks for some change in the look and feel of the application, like change in the color of some text, then it is not a bug, but just some changes in the look of the application are carried out. Say for example, some kind of a tagline is written on the web page. It is having one particular font, okay, and when your customer will look into the product, he find that this is not a good font and the color is not up to like my expectations, so he may ask to change that particular thing. Developer will change, but now these changes are not reflected on all the pages, if this is the case, okay, then from the testers team, what you can say that on one page the logo is showing different, on another page it is different. So this can be considered as a defect from the tester's point of view. But if the changes are taking place and it is as per the user's requirement, then the developer may have the right to mark it as a not a bug. Okay, so these are the steps. Reopened is what, after retesting, that means your bug when going for retesting, its status will now be reopened, and then again it will go to assigned, and again it will follow the same stages. So that's why the status is reopened here. So getting all these stages, any doubt in this? No problem. Okay, then we'll go for the next step, that is defect management process. So defect management is the process of detecting the bugs and fixing them. It is necessary to say that bugs occur constantly in the process of software development. They are a part of software industry. Software development is quite complex process. The team members are usually placed in strict time frames. They must write large pieces of code every day, and they usually don't have time to think about how to avoid the bugs. Hence, every software development project requires a process that helps the defect detection and fix them. The defect management is usually conducted at the stage of product testing. Software testing can be conducted in two different ways. First is developers test their product themselves, and second is the final users are often provided with an ability to report on the bugs they found. So the process of defect management usually includes four different steps. In that, first is the step of defect detecting. So it can be conducted either by the team of developers or by the users. Regardless of the type of testing, Its main goal is to detect all the bugs in the final product or its part. Second is formulation of the bug reports. That means these are the documents that will include all the necessary information about certain bugs. Usually, they contain data on the type of bug and the possible ways of its correction. Third is bug fixing. So, after the bugs are fixed, they should be tested once more to make sure that the software is working properly. And fourth is creation of bug list. That means this is the document that contains the information about all the bugs that are occurred during the project's performance. The team often uses the bug list because similar bugs occurrence is not rare. So in this way you can go for defect management process. So next is developing test strategy. Here, the test planning includes developing a test strategy about how the test team will perform the testing. Some key components in this are test factors require in particular phase of development and test phase corresponding to development phase. The process of developing the test strategy goes through the steps which are listed over here in this. The first is select and rank the test factors for the given application. So test team must identify critical success factors, quality factors, test factors for the software product under testing, some specific requirements from the users, then they should be analyzed and prioritized or ranked. So as per the ranks, the development team may get the idea which particular defect should be given highest priority, which should be given lower, which should be fixed at the first level only, in that way. Second is identify the system development phases and related test factors. The critical success factor may have varying importance as per the SDLC. One need to consider the importance of these factors as per life cycle, and test approach will change accordingly. Third is identify associated risks with each selected test factor in case if it is not achieved. So the trade-offs may lead to few risks of development and testing the software. Customers must be involved in doing the trade-offs of the test factors and the possible risks of not selecting proper test factors. So the risks with probability and impact need to be used to arrive at the decision of the trade-offs. And number 4, identify the phase in which risks of not meeting a test factor need to be addressed. So the risks may be tackled in different ways during development life cycle phases. As the phase is over, one needs to assess the actual impact of the risks and effectiveness of devised counter measures for the same. Then developing testing methodologies. So developing the test practices is the job of project lead. It is the job of test manager or test lead. Different projects may need different projects may need practices as per the type of the product or the customer. Designing and defining of test methodology may take the route given in the steps over here. In that, the first is acquire and study test strategy as defined earlier. That means the test strategy is developed by a test team familiar with the business risks associated with the software usage, and testing must address the critical success factors for the risk involved in not achieving it. Second is determine the type of development project being executed. So development projects may be categorized differently by different organizations. Like organizations can use available history and the lessons learned in the previous projects can be used to avoid the contingencies in the given project. Or secondly, we can say that commercially of the test, COTS, purchased softwares may be integrated in given software. So integration in terms of parameter passing can be major constraint. Next is maintenance activities such as bug fixing, enhancement, porting, re-engineering will have their own challenges such as availability of design documents, compatibilities of various technologies, and code readability. Next is agile methodology and development has small iteration of development and heavy regression testing. Then iterative methods of development with the continuous changing requirements and other artifacts must be updated. Then spiral development where new things are added in the system again and again. Then life affecting software. Then huge money affecting software. Software which cannot be tested in real life and requires simulation for the testing and other softwares. Third stage is determine the type of software system being made. So it includes how the data processing will be done by the software. So it may involve number one, determine the project scope, that is multi-vendor or multi-site development. Then new developments with scope of development and testing when the product is enhanced from the existing level. And thirdly, changes to the existing system such as bug fixing, enhancement, re-engineering, and porting. Next is number 4, identify the tactical risks related to the development. So structural risks which refers to the methods used to build a product. So, if the product uses existing libraries or designs, then it may lead to highest risk with algorithms that are being used. Second is technical risks, which refers to the technology used to build and operate the system. So, suppose if the organization is new to a particular technology or technology is new to the world, then unproven technology or inability to work with the latest technology are the problems faced by the developers as well as the users also. And thirdly, the size risks, which refers to the size of the aspects of the software. So, as the software size increases, it becomes more complex. So, maintaining the integrity maintaining the integrity of a very big software itself is um, is a challenging task. Next, number 5, determine when the testing must occur during the life cycle. So, testing phases starting from the proposal, contract or requirement, testing till the acceptance testing and integration, decide the test strategy for the product. Then, previously collected information can be used to decide how much testing is to be done, at what time, and in which phases. So, it will define the cost of the testing, cost of customer dissatisfaction, and any kind of trade offs. So, build tactical test plans which will be used by the test team in execution of testing related activities. To describe the software being tested, test objective risks, business function to be tested, and any specific test to be performed. Number 6, steps to develop a customized test strategy. So, select and rank the quality factors, test factors as expected by the customer in final product. Quality factor must be prioritized. Number 2, quality factors have same ratings. Then identify the system development phase where these factors may be controlled. Next, identify the business risks associated with the system under development. Then place the risks in the matrix so that one may be able to analyze them. So here in this particular table it is been shown. So quality factors, whatever the factors affecting that are listed. Phases, test phases, that is the compliance, accuracy, reliability. Then the requirements, whatever the requirements that are listed over here. And then in design, coding, testing, deployment, and maintenance, whatever the risk associated at different phases for different factors, those will be given over here. So this is nothing but the uh, typical test strategy matrix. And number 7 is type of development methodology, impact, test plan, decisions. So here they are listed the types. Suppose it is a traditional system development such as waterfall model or development model of development, then its characteristics like uses a system development methodology as a defined, then user knows the requirements completely and these are defined, and development determines structure of the application. Here the test practices are given which are common to all. Then next type is iterative development or prototyping development. So here the characteristics are complete set of requirements unknown to the users and developers, structure predefined by the development, refactoring may be done if required. Next type is system maintenance methodology. So here modify the structure if it represents a limiting factor for the maintenance activities. And next type is purchase or contracted software COTS. So here the characteristics are system unknown to the tester may contain the defects in hidden form, functionality defined in user manual, documentation may vary from software to software. And here the list of test practices are given. So test at the end of each task, step or phase to ensure that the exit criteria is been achieved. Verify that the specifications match user needs exactly. Test functions and structures as per the test plan. Verify that the case tools are used properly where required by the testing. Next, functionality first. Next, test other areas of the product such as integration, system, etc. Test structure consistency as it may affect the entire application. Then works best with release methods of maintenance. Then requires heavy regression testing as a system is updated. Next, verify that the functionality matches the needs of the business. Then test the functionality as per the business needs and test fitness for the use into production environment. So these are all the test practices under this. So this is the last bit. So here we are ending with the chapter unit number 1. So any doubt in this? कुणाला काही डाऊट? Any problem? So the study material, handwritten notes are already shared with you on Tuesday. You can go through it. Based on this, we will have our chapter number 1 test, that is MCQ based only. So it will be conducted on the Our next lecture is on Saturday, right? So on Saturday, I will conduct the test on chapter number 1, okay? And the questions related to the tutorial number 1, I will post maybe by today or tomorrow, okay? So you have to go through that tutorial, write all the questions and upload it, okay? I will send the links for both tutorials and MCQ test. Any doubt till now? This is the introductory chapter. Be responsive. If no doubt, then put your attendance in the chat with roll number and division and you can leave. You are very prompt in giving the attendance only. Give the attendance fast and leave.
Roll number A30, ma'am.
You have given in the chat window, na? No
Yes, ma'am.
problem. No problem then. Mukund, Mukund A59, you can leave now. And roll number B72, you can also.